Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes as we wait for everyone to join, and then we'll get started. Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we will get started. Thank you all for joining. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Better Business Bureau's webinar series sponsored by Dell Technologies. Thank you to everyone that joined us yesterday for the new logic of work, and congrats to Julie Braun on winning the keyboard and mouse combination. We are delighted to have you join us for day 2 covering cybersecurity risks for small and growing organizations with Stephen Granat and Ash Lakshmanan. Reminder, we have another session called Power Through Technology at the same time tomorrow and hope for you all to join us. Now let's dive into today's agenda. Stephen will be taking that over and covering that for us in a second. But before I introduce him, I wanted to remind you all of amazing benefits that Dell offers to Better Business Bureau accredited businesses, which you can access at dell.com/BBB. Once again, we thank you for joining us in this exciting journey of learning and growth. Let's make the most of the summer webinar series powered by the Better Business Bureau and sponsored by Dell Technologies. Now to introduce you all to Stephen. Stephen has been with Dell and with technology for over 20 years, building and developing new strategic relationships. As part of Dell services, he has global responsibility for Dell's managed detection and response and incident response services. Prior to joining Dell, he was at SecureWorks and Impervia in leading third-party integrations. He also led partnerships at Cloud4C, India's leading managed services provider, and spent 15 years at EMC in a variety of roles, including the management of Deloitte, Unisys, and others. He is a graduate of the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University and also serves on the Management Advisory Board. Thank you all so much for joining us, and Stephen, take it away.
Right. Good morning and good afternoon. Hopefully we're going to put up this presentation. Can everyone see that right now?
Yeah, we just need to put it in presentation mode and you're good to go.
I'm putting it in presentation mode. We are in presentation mode. Can you see it?
1 second. Looks like it's loading. One moment. Let's see. Still showing like a little wheel there. Let's see. Does it look good on your end? It seems to be loading on mine.
Good on my end. I don't want
about
to
you, Ash?
I'm seeing it in slide sorter view as well.
Okay, we'll give it a second. It's probably just catching up.
Yeah, I see the wheels spinning.
Yeah. It's getting there. All right. Let's see.
You know, I'm going to go to regular view so we don't lose our time here, if that's okay. So I'm going to share out, and again, we're happy to share this out with everyone after today's presentation. So don't worry about taking notes or making copies of the slides. We'll get them to you. So as Allison said, hi, I'm Steve Granat from Dell, and today we're going to talk about cybersecurity. We're really focused on talking about, you know, small and growing organizations like many of you. We'll talk about some of the implications around cyber and vulnerability, going about protecting your assets. We'll get into a case study. We've got a special offer for those of you that are on the call with us today. We'll do some Q&A, so we'll have some time for that, and then we've got a giveaway. So, you know, in preparing for today, I always try to get the most up-to-date information, and literally this article appeared yesterday in SC Media. And so I was like, wow, this is so timely. I mean, you know, here it is basically. There was a study that was just done, and ultimately, you know, what the study concludes, to no surprise, is that, you know, small businesses struggle, okay? You've got so many challenges today around everything from people working remotely, inflation, supply chain issues, new revenue streams, and, you know, the vulnerabilities and the cybersecurity challenges that you face are, you know, are really overwhelming, okay? And this is the report you can find here with this link, and we're going to go into some of these, but kind of like the timeliness of this is so important. But let's just start with a quick market overview and the risk. You know, ultimately, there's a lot of trends that are out there that companies are facing around cybersecurity. But the most important one from where I sit is the fact that companies like yours, organizations, are struggling with the staffing challenges for cybersecurity. Okay, we know the threats increase every day. But what's not changing is the fact that you still need to find and hire and retain qualified cybersecurity people. And it's a massive challenge, and it's one that all of our customers face today. There are really four ways to think about cybersecurity threats. And the way that we like to talk about them is, you know, you've got truly organized crime out there that's looking to really make money off of the actions that they take, right? These can be kind of gangs, but they're out there. You've got the insider threat, and that's really, unfortunately, employees that may be doing things on purpose, or more likely than not, they are doing things that they don't realize puts the organization in danger. You've got the, you know, literally the nation states that are out there right now that are impacting, you know, the world of cyber. And they're doing it to make money, but also to steal, you know, intellectual. And then you've got the hacktivist, which is someone that's really motivated by doing public harm. It's important when we realize how are customers getting breached, that ultimately it's the credentials is the biggest way that people are getting in. Almost, you know, that your email address is a great way that people get in. You all know about phishing and the fact that people open up, you know, an email. And unfortunately, it's been proven time and time again that, you know, your typical employee gets an email. It could be the owner of the business. It could be somebody in procurement or the warehouse, and they unbeknowingly click on an email, and voila, you've got a virus and you've got malware and you're in trouble. So again, coming back to those challenges, right? You've got the fact of the matter is that you've got today adversaries or hackers, this is their livelihood. They spend their whole day trying to get into an organization. You, on the other hand, are trying to meet regulatory issues, compliance issues. There's all these visibilities that you need across not only your endpoint, right? Think your laptop and your server, but your network and your cloud. And then what you're really faced with today is this staff burnout, the fact that you can't find qualified security people. There's a massive shortage right now of over 1 million jobs around cybersecurity. People with COVID and the impact that COVID had on organizations, you've got a lot of open jobs out there, a lot of fatigue. You're getting overwhelmed with the number of alerts or incidents or attacks that you have. And ultimately, there's a lot to coordinate. So it's a big challenge. We sympathize. Why is this important? Ultimately, it's because this is a top challenge for you. And ultimately, as I like to kind of joke with people, in the past, we worried about, the fictitious character from the movie War Games, where Matthew Broderick was the high school kid hacking into an organization. And today, we're sitting here and we're worried about, China, Iran, North Korea, or a cyber gang operating out of Russia that can shut down your company. So there's big risk out there, and unfortunately, a smaller business has a greater risk, and we'll get into that in a second. And so you really, if you leave today's call with one thought, just remember that it's not a question of if, it's rather when it's going to happen. So I wanted to give a little thought to the small business and the membership here. Look, it is the little guy that gets squeezed. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, ultimately, you're just not as equipped to handle sophisticated accounts. I mean, Citibank has 1,000 people in their IT department, or thousands in their IT department, and hundreds of cybersecurity people. And so what's going on right now is that the attacker has realized, you know what? Yes, it's more profitable for me to get in and attack Citibank, but it's going to take a long time. So you know what? It's a lot easier for me to go after smaller businesses because they're very profitable. So you have to ask yourself a question, right? Do you conduct e-commerce on your website? Do you do any order processing? Do you even do event registration, right? Do you collect any kind of data, any kind of personal data? Do you have supplier information? And then what's your most critical asset today? If you think about it, everyone on this call, every organization today has critical asset. If you're a nonprofit, your critical asset is your donor list. If you're a bakery, it's your recipes. You've got billing information, proprietary information. All of that is at risk, and you need to protect it. There are some factors for those of you that are interested in cyber insurance, and those of you that have cyber insurance policies. Just a word on this. I know this is an eye chart, but the point is that the underwriters today, the insurance underwriters for a cyber liability policy, they're looking to make sure that you as an organization are covering really the critical factors that they look for. Critical factors like, do you have an incident response plan? So if you were attacked, you would know how to respond. Do you have vulnerability management, right? To know and scan your environment. Do you protect your network? Are you training your people, right? So have you provided any education for your employees? All of these are really critical factors that you need to be aware of. And ultimately, we can help you with this. So let's get into the solution. I'm just going to tee this up, and then I'm going to pass it over to Ash. Dell has built out, as have many organizations, a cybersecurity framework based upon NIST. And NIST is a government agency that operates under the National Institute of Science and Technology. And there are 5 pillars to that. And you can see them here from identity to recover. And basically, in English, really what it's all about is you got to know your own self. You got to know your enemy. You have to have a way of detecting threats. You have to have a way of remediating those threats. And ultimately, you need to recover. And keep in mind two things. There's two reasons that cyber criminals exist or hackers exist. Reason number one, they want to get into your environment and they want to hold you hostage. They do that so that ultimately you will pay them in Bitcoin and then you can go back to operating your organization. But think about that for a second. Could you recover? What would happen? So that's reason number one. Reason number two, and people don't think about this as much, is they just want to steal your data or your information. Did you know that a social security number of a kid that's in elementary school, that's worth about $10 today on the dark web? Okay, so when the threat actor steals social security numbers of kids that are in 8th grade, that social security number is worth about $10. So there's lots of reasons we got to protect you. So I'm now going to turn it over to Ash to talk a little bit about the cyber market and Dell's approach. So Ash?
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm the product manager for a lot of the offers we're about to speak about, and we talked about the NIST coverage earlier, right? And we look at the attack chain here and identify, right? Let's identify what's missing in the environment. What vulnerabilities exist in the environment, right? Let's perform a penetration test, an attack simulation. Let's validate, could a hacker take advantage of your environment? An employee awareness training. Which employees in your, at your company might need that additional help of being aware with security training? And I'll jump a little bit into each of these categories on why that's important. And then on the side to the right, we're focused on managed detection and response. How do we detect threats in your environment, right? And once we detect a threat, what's going to happen, right? Vulnerability management, pen testing tells you what is weak in your house, right? It says, look, that door that was manufactured by Acme has this weakness and they have shared with us. We discovered that in your house. Now, please fix that door or fix that window. What managed detection and response is going to say, we have proof somebody's trying to take advantage of it. So how do we detect it? How do we respond to it? And how do we eventually recover from it, right? It is very important all these elements are covered because you can actually patch everything and still an attempt could be made. And you want to be notified of that attempt of, somebody trying to take advantage of your environment. You also want to know how to respond to it immediately. Am I fully controlled from a security control standpoint? Are my vulnerabilities patched? And once I'm notified, can I respond well? So this end-to-end coverage is critical for all the customers we generally see. Jumping ahead. So just, piggybacking on what I said earlier, right? It's very important first, what assets exist in your environment. You can't protect what you can't see, right? What exists? Let's address the blind spots, right? Let's manage those vulnerabilities. Let's take a quick inventory of what's in your environment. We can do that fast. And then let's protect those assets. Different assets can require different types of protection, but let's provide that what I call a layered security. No one thing is final. You need a layer of security. And then at the last, make it continuous. This is very critical. Environments are changing. The attack surface is changing, right? It didn't used to be like before. Now we also have a democratization of attack tools. Someone sitting in a high school is able to perform pretty sophisticated attacks. You don't need necessarily a very skilled hacker. There's so much public data available, public tools available. We need continuous vigilance and governance. Next slide. So how do we position this, right? We take this layered security and what's out there in terms of growing attack surface very seriously. We still believe MDR, some kind of ability to detect what's in your environment critical, but we say let's make as many capabilities preventative, right? Let's start with scanning your environment. What's there in your environment? What kind of software exists? What vulnerabilities exist? And which ones are the worst, right? Ideally, you don't want to be patching every single vulnerability in your environment. You want to patch the ones that matter the most. And that takes a certain level of skill for prioritization of those vulnerabilities. And we have the experts to say, look, you have 1,000 vulnerabilities, you have 10,000 vulnerabilities, which is all common in customer environments, depending on the size. Focus on these 200 right now. This is what you need to focus on. Let's not worry about these other, 800 vulnerabilities. And that's important because it's taking your resources away from other critical tasks. The next part is the pen testing and attack simulation management. You can patch all the vulnerabilities correctly, and an attacker could still find a way. And that's because some security control could be weak. Maybe the team did not patch it fast enough. Your team said, well, I know Dell gave me this guidance, but I'm going to wait 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks. Within that time, an attacker can take advantage of that and try to get in. So we do penetration tests, which I think is critical, not just from your compliance or just check the box in your customer, right? You're selling your product to a counterparty, and the counterparty is going to ask, do you perform penetration tests? Your insurance provider is going to ask, do you perform penetration tests? It's not just to check the box. We think you want to do attack simulation management along with it, which says, look, we take this seriously, we protect our customer data, and on top of that, we kind of do some kind of simulated attacks year round. It doesn't impact your production, but it just constantly checks your environment year round. Picture some person on your side going around checking that door every night, checking that window every morning, and kind of making sure this is all kind of tightened up correctly. Now, finally, to close it out with managed security awareness training from the preventative side, let's train your employees. Let's help them identify issues when they see them. That phishing email, let's help them catch it better. That, URL that kind of went to this kind of link that just went to this weird web page that just didn't look right. What are the things to look for, right? Let's harden the employees. You can get all your security infrastructure right, and people fail on the employee awareness piece and they compromise everything. We see this time and time again, phishing attempts, smishing attempts, through SMS. That's phishing with SMS, and we see that happening often. At the end of this, right, we have incident recovery care. We believe if a breach happens, you should be able to recover from it fast, right? What we call the blast radius. Something went down, right? Picture that window, that door didn't get tightened enough. Well, somebody got in. You want to make sure that hacker is locked in that room. They're not able to escape that room because there are so many compensating controls within that house that all the other doors were so tight that that hacker got locked into that room and couldn't go any further. So we see IR coming in saying, look, let's make sure we have a great plan in place in the event there's some kind of breach. We understood your environment deeply. We know which parts are tight and which parts are not, and let's remove or reduce that blast radius and protect you and respond to this breach immediately. So I've talked about this earlier, but I'm going to very quickly touch on some high level points. Vol management, right? Great. Let's not just identify the vulnerabilities. Let's prioritize it. Let's fine tune the prioritization. That's very important. Let's protect your resources on the highest value tasks and get the best bang for the buck. Pen testing, attack simulation management. We will continuously validate your security controls. We will mimic the real world attacks, and we will perform the annual pen tests for you to make sure not only you've looked at different attack pathways and a hacker could have taken, that your security controls are also tight. This sits on top of that vol management where we prioritize the vulnerabilities for you. Same thing for managed security awareness training. Let's assign the training paths. Not every employee needs the same type of training. Everybody needs a training, some kind of managed security awareness training, because they're touching your infrastructure, but different folks, part of different organizations, might deserve different type of training. Think accounting team, right? They touch financial records. Think people who touch any kind of PII. They need different types of training. We will customize that for you, build a learning path, and not just do it one and done. We believe in having security being top of mind. Let's make security training bite-sized year round so that it's consumable. It's not a burden to your employees, but rather something they learn and it kind of stays on top of their mind throughout the year. Close it out, MDR, right? All of this is important. MDR, like I said, how do we detect and investigate these advanced threats? We use SecureWorks right now, and we will ingest data from across the telemetry, and we will respond to those threats, and we will investigate them. We have Dell batch resources. We will do the agent rollout assistance here. And this is 24/7, 365 days a year, right? We have our SOC capabilities. You don't have to invest in them. Or if you have something invested, we can play complementary with that. You get cyber incident response initiation up to 40 hours. There's an incident, we will take it upon ourselves to first respond to it. And then you have a threat engagement manager assigned, and this comes with quarterly reviews. All the services I mentioned has some type of a quarterly review where we check with our customers, and we treat this as a very high touch service. Just like I talked about earlier, agent rollout, we will roll out the agents for you. Any kind of deployments, we'll assist the customer. We will run through the threat detection investigation for you, and we will review it 24/7 to catch any detected threats. And we can respond, and remediate depending on what kind of actions that are needed. And we provide up to 40 hours of remote remediation as needed. And on top of that, we can respond if there's a cyber incident and initiate it and make sure you're protected end to end. This is there is global coverage for this 24/7. We have a team based in the US, but we have also a global follow the sun model here. Our teams, we take extra care in making sure who we hire, that is folks not just with product certifications, but also deep, broad cybersecurity certifications. We have folks that have prior military experience, gov experience, and we bring those capabilities to bear when we deliver this service. Just to kind of tie it all up, right? We talked about all these different services. Again, if you want to pictorially look at this, why do we need vuln management, breach attack simulation, and manual pen testing? Well, at the bottom of the hierarchy of needs, we need to know what's vulnerable in your environment. What are those doors and windows that are the producer of those windows have shared is weak? Let's scan and make sure those are all patched. Let's those vulnerabilities patched, all that software systems. At the top of the pyramid, you have manual pen testing. Let's take advantage of it. Let's have a certified ethical hacker that Dell's going to provide. Test what could have been taken advantage of and provide a report and show you what's the path for remediation. In the middle, let's make this continuous, right? You can't have a pen tester and a hacker in your environment. That's not cost effective. Let's get a breach attack simulation tool with our managed BAS come in and say, look, let's test your controls year round, right? Think your email gateway, think your web gateway, think your endpoint. You think you have a security service that's working fine, great. We want to make sure and test that it's working as desired, and get it to the place where it needs to be. So if you already have an MDR solution, you already have a SOC, great. We can still piecemeal this and say, let's just do a pen testing and attack simulation management on your environment, run these simulations, and check if your tools are working as they're supposed to. So this is how the packaging of the offers look like. We have MDR, MDR Pro, and Pro Plus. MDR is what I talked about just now, that can detect your threats and we can respond to it. MDR Pro includes MDR and vulnerability management. MDR Pro Plus includes all of the options shown. That's vuln management, pen testing, attack simulation management, managed security awareness training, and we add that incident recovery care for once a year. If you have a breach, we will cover it with the technical resources, and technical hours that are Dell badged. The good news is all of this is also available as standalone, just like I talked about. We will meet you wherever your environment is. You have a vuln management solution that you're happy with, great. Let's choose these other layered security options that can fit well within your customer environment. So we can position MDR, vuln management, pen testing, attack simulation management, managed security awareness training, all these components as standalone services. If you just want the security awareness training, great. Let's get that and integrate it with your existing security imperatives. So that flexibility is critical for us because we want to meet the customer in their customer journey, not having them to uproot what they have invested in already. Just finally, this is a view I really like because it shows how we are not only touching these different type of what I call attack vectors, right? Like you have the vulnerabilities, you have the security controls, you have the employee awareness piece, but the kind of cadence we choose across it. We're never leaving a gap to that whole conversation around continuous. Year round, we're touching all the possibilities in your environment in some form or fashion. They're continuous, and we have a very structured programmatic approach to make sure we will catch those drifts. If the employee is maybe not trained enough, maybe that attack vector needs to be, closed a little bit further. Whatever that need is, we cover it year round. And this, I hope this articulates that well.
Thank you for that, Ash. So, people always ask us, multiple questions when we're talking to a group, and we pulled two case studies that we thought this group could benefit from based upon the sizing. So the first was a nonprofit. They happen to be in the healthcare space. It happens to be a small hospital, and they're going through a digital transformation. And what's most interesting is when you look at the challenge that they're facing, it's pretty consistent across not only their organization, but many others, right? The visibility, right? Do they know what's going on in their own environment? In this case, they didn't. Staffing, right? They had an IT team, but that IT team doesn't have, the security skills. And then finally, again, they are not cybersecurity experts. They hopefully know how to take care of their patients and make you healthy, but they don't know how to monitor and catch the bad guys. And so they had one person that understood security, which wasn't enough. At the end of the day, we ended up selling them a deal, for 100 endpoints, and ultimately they were very pleased. Another example was a regional credit union. Um, they serve basically multi counties. And again, the theme is you can see small IT team, right? Which probably resonates with everyone on this call. They had a need for monitoring 24 by 7. Now, when you think about that, there are plenty of customers that we talk to and they say, oh, we already have someone that's monitoring. And we'll say, great, but what do you do after hours? What are you doing on weekends? And more importantly, what are you doing on holidays? You know that the hackers, right? They're running a business too, and it's called How to Get Into Your Company. And they know when the holidays are in the US. So, when Christmas rolls around, believe me, that's when they get busy. When one of the biggest threat days is July 4th, because they know that, most organizations don't have anyone in the office. In this particular case, this credit union also had to meet compliance requirements of capturing events, or what we call logs. So again, our solution was, 50 endpoints to protect them. Offer. Everybody loves a good offer. So we want you to think about two things really. First is, what's your situation, right? How would you handle an incident? If you did get attacked, would you have the ability to respond, and who would you call? And equally as important, how long would it take you to discover if somebody was in your environment? We live in apartments, we live in houses, and many of us have burglar alarms. A burglar alarm is not bad because it kind of gives you some advance notice that somebody's broken into your house. But again, a burglar's pretty smart. They have other ways to get in. So would you know if somebody was sitting in your living room? And that's what MDR is all about. Basically it's a proactive way to figure out if someone's in your environment. What we are willing to do for the BBB members is we're willing to do a rapid assessment for you because we feel it's important, and it's part of our approach. And ultimately what we'll do is we'll review some key areas with you. We'll identify where those risks are, and ultimately, quote, grade you on your status and show you ways to improve and give you some recommendations. So we highly, recommend that you take advantage of this, this offer. We're also going to give a discount to members off of any of our services. And we've set up this specific email address, which is SB, so Sam Baker .managed.services@dell.com. And if you reach out to that, or if you reach out to your Dell account executive and basically ask for this, we'll provide it. Again, we're all about reducing your risk, okay? And Dell is about helping you to, protect your organization. So we've set aside specifically time for Q&A because we again feel it is really important. So Allison, if you don't mind, if you could come back on, and I don't know if there's any questions in the Q&A or in the chat.
Yeah, I will go ahead and read a couple. Everyone else, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box, and I will ask them to Stephen and Ash. But first off, the first question we have is, what is the cost of not having a cyber plan?
I mean, Ash, I'll jump in first, then I'll let you answer. I mean, the cost of not having a cyber plan is not having an organization. Many of you run family businesses, you have a nonprofit organization, you have shareholders, you have yourself, your own family. And ultimately, not having a plan and not having a way to protect you can mean, ultimately that your environment is shut down for hours, days, or weeks. I mean, we recently had a school district that was attacked, and they happened to be in the Texas area. They couldn't even access their air conditioning. So imagine, for those of you who don't know, right now, Texas is going through a heat spell. It's like 104 degrees. Students are not coming to school in 104-degree temperature. And so this school district not only couldn't operate, they couldn't teach. That's the risk. Ash, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, you said it really well, Steve. I think first of all, it's table stakes now these days, right? We're also interconnected that if you're not able to have a cyber plan, that means you're in the risk of being shut down, first temporarily, as Steve mentioned. Personally, I will not do business with any company that I find cannot handle my data correctly. This is just common now. This is, it's not just a federal issue, state level issue. This is coming into just a trust issue. If a customer finds that my credit card I swiped with you is not safe, I gave you my personal details and it's just now publicly available for anybody, or I have paid for certain subscription for you and you're not able to honor those commitments because your business is not up, I think it's a total detriment to the brand first, a disservice to your customers, and interruption of service. So all of the above. So I don't know what else could be worse. I mean, people are going to be, there are ransomware attacks, and you could really be compromised by just simply clicking an email and just compromising your enterprise. That seems like something you would want to prevent happening.
Awesome, thank you all. We have a couple other questions. Two are pretty similar. So one is, how would you approach a hair salon with 4 staff and laptops to organize their booking, or is this kind of business too small? And then also the similar question, does this apply to a 2-person real estate office? It seems like it may be too small to take on this additional expense. What size company is your target?
Ash, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, at any size, you want some type of protection. That's the short answer, right? Even if you're having a 4 staff member laptop, right? You want to have some kind of protection first for those laptops. If you're choosing Dell laptops, kudos to you, because we build security at the hardware level, right? But what else are you connecting that to? Do you have, other software that, you subscribe and your customers use beyond that? Is something you would want to know. You definitely want to train those employees to some minimal level. Folks, if you're using your work email, please do not click these emails, whatever that minimal training is. And you want to still keep your software up to date and kind of your laptop up to date. So even for a small business, right, with 4 or 5, so many people, these kind of elements, right? You definitely don't need an MDR solution, but you need some kind of those small business solutions for that small group. They are still vulnerable and can compromise your business. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no, I think, to the individual that say, hey, I'm a real estate company, I've got 2 employees or 2 people in the office. I mean, at the end of the day, the MDR service starts, just because we can't make it economical any smaller than 50 units. So you'd really be overpaying. You would have to buy 50 units, which just like hypothetically would cost you, let's say, $9,000, right, a year. So it would be a big cost per unit, but again, what is a breach, going to cost you? It may be worth 9,000. There are other solutions that we have in the portfolio that may be a better fit for you, that can be explored. So it really depends. Okay, the MDR services you asked, starts at 50 units, but again, you may want a vulnerability scan. It's not the ideal situation, but you know what? It's really good. You may want to do some employee training. So it's not just, do one thing and you're done. We also know that companies can't afford to do everything. So we will think with you of the best approach. Allison?
Awesome, thank you. We do have a couple more questions in here. So one is, will you do training even if we have another cyber group do our IT?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, totally. Yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of, companies that Dell, works with from a partner standpoint, that provides IT, and we absolutely are, service everyone.
Awesome. And then we have another question. Would you recommend another company that can handle cybersecurity for smaller business?
I would reach out to, again, the SB that you see on the screen here is our small business group. That's who's actually sponsoring today's, session. And if you send them an email, they will respond and come up with the best, solution for you. Unfortunately, when it comes, like many things, in life, it's difficult sometimes to offer up solutions, that don't meet certain minimums. We as a company have certainly tried, and we really service the small business up to the largest companies in the world. So yeah, they have some solutions that they can talk about with you.
Awesome. Great. Do we have any more questions? Give it a couple more minutes. We do have one more. So who should you call when attacked?
Yeah, this is my favorite question in life, because I always joke, well, you got 3 options. It's kind of like, who would you call if you were attacked? Typically, if we were doing a survey right now, the number 1 answer would be, I don't know. So, who do you call if you've been attacked? You want to call someone that's going to be able to help you, okay? In the event that you've actually had a ransomware attack, meaning somebody has taken over your environment, Dell happens to offer that as a service. It's incident.response@dell.com, or, you would call up the 800 number, and we have a team of people that would help you. I think the question is really posed under the, hey, I really should be thinking about who I should call and what is my plan, just like anything else. And again, it could be as simple as, here's the piece of paper that I have at my desk that in the event we get breached, this is my plan, right? This is the person that's in charge. I'm going to call the Dell team and they're going to help me, et cetera, et cetera. But you do need a plan. And you're really no differently than, hey, if there was a fire that broke out in my office, what's my plan to get out? you need a plan. And hopefully, today's session is giving you some thoughts on some of the proactive things that you can do, to help protect your organization.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the presentation and the answers for the Q&A. We really, really appreciate it. And then we will get moved over to our giveaway for today. So we are giving away the C930E business webcam from Logitech. So the winner is, I did a drawing during the session, and it is Kurt Bowler. So Kurt, I will be reaching out to you and get your information to ship that out to you. So thank you so much for joining today. And thank you to everyone else. Reminder again that we do have our final session tomorrow where we will be doing another giveaway. And then following the event, I will be doing a XPS laptop giveaway for registrants. So make sure you got all your information in there. And thank you guys again for the session today. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you all.